What's going on, guys? I guess a better question would be, what's not going on? Oh my God, have you been watching the news for the past couple of weeks? Holy crap. Holy crap. I said something a long time ago that 2024 was going to be wild, but this has surpassed my wildest expectations of what was going to come. I mean, we've got 4 or 5 plots to kill Donald J. Trump. You had, at first, of course, you had the kid, as I call him, that actually took a shot and hit him in the ear. I can't recall his name. His name doesn't matter. He was, in my opinion, an activated MK Ultra participant. At least it looks that way to me from the research that I've done, and also the way that they just cover that up. And then after like a week, they stopped talking about it altogether. So all sorts of new stuff's coming out about what happened and the suspicious things that were related to that kid and how he got the gun and his dad, and they scrubbed the house. People went in to investigate. The house was like completely sterilized, sort of like you would expect if the CIA or some other shadowy clandestine organization went in there beforehand, before the investigation, and basically cleaned everything. They claim they had no silverware in the house. All of that shit just vaporized. The news didn't want to talk about it anymore. And fast forward a couple of days, then they find out the CIA or somebody said, maybe it was the Secret Service, they said that Iran had actually been plotting an assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump. So anyway, that was one of the plots, right? The other plot was just the other day in Florida, where you got this like 50-some-odd-year-old grown-ass man who clearly had some mental shortcomings. Let's just put it that way. I saw several video clips of this guy where he was over in Ukraine actively trying to join up to the Ukrainian military, and they were like, no, man, you're too old and probably too crazy. They were probably like, yeah, no, we're not giving this guy a machine gun. But anyway, the guy went over there to Ukraine, and the weird thing about all of this stuff is the unanswered questions, or the unasked questions, like, how was this guy able to afford a house in Hawaii and plane tickets over to Ukraine back and forth? And I think I even heard something about, I don't know if he went to Iran, but he was somehow connected to Iran. Ruth, however you say this guy's name, the latest attempted assassin. And the whole circumstances were really weird. The guy was there, they say his cell phone at least was there for 12 hours beforehand. Now, according to the Trump and the Trump campaign people, they were all saying that, oh no, this was a last-minute decision. We didn't know we were going to go do this. So what time did the 12-hour time clock start? I don't know. When did this guy get there? I mean, clearly he had nefarious intentions. He had ceramic plates leaned up on the fence, so he thought that he was going to get fired back upon. And yet, when the guy, I'm assuming the Secret Service probably only had a handgun or something like that, or maybe a submachine gun type weapon. So at the range and distance they were at, I'm sure the Secret Service probably didn't have a really great shot. But anyway, he took the shot, apparently, and it's unknown. In the beginning, the media was trying to spin it and saying, oh, well, no, it was just 2 guys shooting out there, and it had nothing to do with Trump and all this. So they were trying to downplay it from the start. And afterwards, of course, after more of the dust has settled, now they're trying to potentially victim blame Trump for this deal, saying he created the rhetoric. No, the ones calling him Nazi and a existential threat to democracy are the ones that have created this threat. And they're still carrying on today as if they can get away with saying that sort of stuff without any repercussions. And apparently they can, because as we've discussed numerous times here on the channel, if you're a follower, we talk about Operation Mockingbird all the time. And the reason why is because it's not some old dusty thing on a shelf over there. They're still using it. They never relinquish control. That's one thing I've learned in my studies of these clandestine operations and bureaucracies and stuff. Once they gain a little bit of power, they never let go. They only continually tighten the noose or their grip until you can't breathe anymore. And yeah, things are getting that wild, guys. But excuse me. Shifting gears. Anyway, the point is there were at least 4 Yeah, at least 4 plots. There was another plot where a guy, I almost forgot about this one, down in Arizona while Trump was visiting the border. There was a plot. I don't know all the details on that one. Again, it's hard to get proper details on this stuff because everyone, as soon as it happens, they become very tight-lipped, and then the media doesn't want to talk about it. They just want to brush over it and pretend it didn't happen. Just for a moment, can you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and this was the 4th or 5th assassination plot against someone like, I don't know, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden? Could you imagine how the media would be just running down anyone in the MAGA party that has ever said anything bad? I mean, it would be such a contrast in the way they reported this, you wouldn't even recognize the news media. Because if it was one of their preferred leaders, they're going to talk about it until they're blue in the face, and then even some more. Remember how long they talked about the supposed insurrection, which I call the Fedsurrection, on January 6th? Remember how long? They're still talking about it. They're still doing it. They never stopped because it's all they've got is the broken record strategy of, lie, tell a lie often enough, and eventually it becomes truth. That's what they're counting on. And amongst many of their voters, that is true because they don't bother to do any further digging or research. They just take Rachel Maddow or whoever it is, Brian Stelter, or whoever it is that they get their trusted news from. They take everything they say at face value and as the truth. They don't bother to do any investigation any further. That's why they're still able to say and use the very fine people hoax with at least some level of success. That's why they're able to do it. It's because people on the other side don't bother to do any research. They never heard about that fact check that came out on Snopes that said it was completely false. They don't care. The other potential 4th or 5th plot unfolded earlier today. They claim that somewhere they found like a barrel full of explosives outside of a Trump event. Now, maybe, I'm hesitant to say that this was actually a Trump assassination attempt because it may have been more targeted at the MAGA supporters, right? The crowd, the people that were going to show up at that event. Now, I read something just before I came out here and turned the camera on that they caught a guy, a civilian, that said he was training bomb-sniffing dogs to locate this stuff. So maybe it has something to do with that. But if he had to use live explosives in a place where they're going to actually have real people later on that day, something looks really suspicious and probably nefarious. Sounds like some, again, every time this stuff comes up, I'm like, I think I've heard about an operation similar to that the CIA pulled off. It's all about being clandestine and tricking people and doing all this sorts of stuff. So am I saying the CIA is responsible for every one of these? No, I don't know. I don't think any of us will ever know any more than we know who actually made the order to kill JFK. What I'm trying to tell you guys is that don't be a bit surprised. They're not done trying to do this. Maybe these guys have nothing to do with the CIA or MK Ultra or any of those old programs like that. Maybe they were just activated by people like Rachel Maddow, people like Kamala Harris, people like Joe Biden saying Ultra MAGA presents an exponential threat to democracy, right? Because it's all about democracy with these guys until their candidate who's running for president right now receives 0 votes. And then they don't want to talk about democracy anymore. I've noticed it's really weird. It's selective democracy with these liberals. It's also they're selectively offended. Okay? So if some of their people say some things that they don't really like, maybe it's a little bit in bad taste, they're not going to say anything because it's their people. They're going to circle the wagons and protect their people. But if someone else outside of the family, the cult says something that they don't like, they're going to annihilate them, and they're going to use their social media dominance and their platforms to suppress those opinions and viewpoints. It's completely, I was shaking my head talking to my wife the other day. I'm just like, do you see it? I mean, it's 1984 right now. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, I didn't think this would actually happen in my lifetime. And if it did happen, I thought it would be toward the end of my lifetime. I thought the American people knew their rights, knew the Constitution, knew the laws of the land, the supreme law of the land. They don't know nothing, and they don't want to know nothing. They want everything to be handed to them. And as long as you're promising them the, free tuition and, free food and price controls at the grocery store, these people have no long-term capability. They can't see long-term. They can't see anything past immediate self-gratification or gratification through taxpayer funding. So anyway, that's what's been going on. 4 or 5 plots to assassinate the guy who's most likely to be the president of the United States if massive, overwhelming cheating is not allowed to happen. And they're already talking about it, guys. I'm not going to go into all that on the video, but I've seen several different articles and reports on multiple different news sources that are claiming that the Democrats are doing all the same sorts of stuff that they did in 2020, and they're going to rig it up to where they can have the mail-in vote just overwhelm the system, Cloward and Piven style. And so I'm not holding my breath that even if Trump survives all the assassination attempts, and I don't think this is over, I think they're just getting started, guys. They're just getting started. I was thinking of something horrific earlier today. Trump might have got lucky. He might have got, maybe it was the hand of God that came down and made him look over at that chart just when he did. I don't know. It may have just been sheer coincidence and luck. Maybe the kid was a bad shot. I have no idea. Crooks was his name. Appropriately fitting name for a guy like that would do something like that, a scumbag type tactic like that. But anyway, maybe it was divine intervention. I have no idea how and why Trump was able to survive that close call, right? It was a headshot. Yeah, it hit him in the ear, but that ear's on the head. That's a big deal. He was able to survive that. But I had this horrible thought a couple of days ago. I was like, one of these days, let me back this up a minute. I heard somewhere in Texas or somewhere, I don't remember, probably near Texas or near the southern border somewhere, a while back, there was a report that people were bringing RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades. Okay, you've seen them in the movies, the ones that have the big cone on the front and they blow some major shit up, okay? What if the next assassin or one of the next assassins uses something, a different tactic like that? I mean, because the border is so porous and open like it is, who knows what is possible? Maybe one of those, what's the rocket that we sent over to Ukraine, javelins or something like that are even more powerful than an RPG, and they're guidable and stuff like that. Maybe one of those javelins that we left over in Afghanistan finds its way up through the southern border. Maybe something much worse than that, like a backpack nuke, goes off at a Trump event. Okay? You smelling what I'm stepping in? I don't care how lucky you are, you ain't gonna escape that, okay? I mean, it would be, if you do escape it, you're gonna be severely disfigured for the rest of your life and probably on life support. Most likely you wouldn't live through something like that. And again, unless it was just really lucky coincidence and it blew up in a different place where you weren't located. But that's the things that I've been thinking, this is just gonna continue to accelerate. That's what they're doing all across the world. So, I mean, how likely is that? I mean, how likely is it that, maybe it's not anything that's illegal that comes up through the southern border? Imagine one of these guys gets a hold of a 50 caliber or one of these, high caliber 338 Lapua sniper rifle or something like that, and can really reach out and touch someone from that water tower that we were all suspicious of during the first attempt, right? And that everything went away on that water tower. Apparently, at one point, I saw the video too, you could see a blurry looking figure moving around on the water tower. Is that where the shot came from? The only thing that convinces me that this is not a full-blown CIA operation or alphabet agency operation from top to bottom is these guys they failed. They failed on both occasions. The one guy, Crooks, he got several shots off, but the second guy, there's an argument whether he ever even pulled the trigger. I don't know. We'll ever know. I don't know that we'll ever know. Where did that gun come from? How did he get a hold of that? Who sold him that gun? Why was the number filed off of it? Where's the source of that? Did that come up from the southern border? Who knows? Who knows? These are all questions that will never be answered. But moving on from domestic news, let's talk about some international news or some world news here. Earlier today, I believe it was, the Ukrainians, they're claiming, actually launched a missile inside of Russia and hit, I believe, their largest conventional munitions plant. So it's where they had all of their, like, you know, I don't know, their RPGs and their artillery shells and their ammunition, their small arms ammunition, grenades, things like that. I assume that's what was in there. And this missile they used, it blew the shit out of it. And I don't imagine that the Russians are going to take that too lightly, okay? Everything that's happening right now is an escalation. Everything. Near and abroad, both foreign and domestic. It's all happening as if it's been coordinated by some, you know, I don't know, some clandestine group of elites that control the world or are trying to control the world. Maybe they run the UN. Maybe they run the WEF. I don't know, but they're all for the same thing. Full, total control of humanity. And, you know, it's deeper than that as well. It's not just the control of humanity. You know, if you're a Christian, this should be really particularly offensive to you, and it should raise your the hairs on the back of your neck. They don't want your humanity. They want dominion over the earth, which was promised to Adam and Eve, to mankind. Okay? They're coming for dominion over the earth. And if they're allowed to win, there won't be any place, anywhere, that you'll be able to hide under any rock on this planet that these people won't be able to get to you. With the technology that's out there today, they might be able to blow your ass up, even if you're hiding in a cave real good. Have you heard? Have you heard what's going on over in Iran? I mean, they're blowing the shit out of these people with pagers. I was actually thinking about, for those of you that grew up in the 90s, you'll remember this. Sir Mix-a-Lot, the old famous song Beepers. I don't know why, but I was just picturing the song Beepers and these guys getting the beep, 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 and then boom. I mean, I am blown away at how clever of a spy move, an espionage move that Israel pulled off on not only Iran, but today it's happening in Lebanon. And apparently they're blowing up their handheld Baofeng radios, which I own 2 of in my prepper radio kit. Don't think that I didn't think about that. I mean, I don't know what's really going on. On the beepers, they claim that at some point during the supply chain in Taiwan, they're claiming these pagers were intercepted by the IDF, right? The Israeli Defense Force, whatever the hell it stands for. They were intercepted, or the Mossad, or somebody like that. They got in there, they caught these beepers in transit, they pulled them apart, put some sort of explosive like C4 micro charge or something, I don't know, some kind of explosive inside of that beeper, and the rumor is they were waiting for a certain time when they were going to send in ground troops at the same time, and then they were going to set all of these things off at once, and meanwhile people would be blowing up and getting taken to the hospital, and they wouldn't have any idea what hit them. But something happened, apparently, and they were really worried that someone had found out what they had done, and they were fixing to tell the higher-ups, and they were going to get rid of these beepers, right? So they had to detonate them. And they killed a shitload. I think they only killed like 11, but they severely wounded thousands of these Hamas terrorists, right? At least that's the way the West views it, right? I'm not sure that we've all been told all the truth about all the different enemies of the states here, enemies of the United States and of the West, but from what we're told, these people are the bad guys. And, you know, from their actions, I see a lot of stuff that indicates that that's probably true. So, you know, I'm not upset about it. I think it was brilliant. I think it was a very targeted. Yeah, I'm sure there were a couple of, you know, innocent bystanders that probably, you know, took the brunt of the explosion or whatever. But you can see this. There's video clips all over X right now where you can go see these things and these people being blown up. I'm not going to put it on here because YouTube would surely demonetize and probably strike my channel and my video down. So anyway, wild shit is happening all over the place. Nobody is putting cool water on the situation. Everybody's pouring gasoline on. So guys, when I told you before 2024 was going to be wild, again, I had no idea it was going to be this wild. And I don't think, let's just put it this way, we ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing. I mean, look at the success that the Ukrainians have had in implementing these super cheap drones. And also, some of the terrorists over in the Middle East have been using these super cheap drones to attack others. Maybe that's how they get Trump next time. Because they're not going to stop until he's dead. Yeah, that's what I think, guys. Anyway, that's enough of my 2 cents. I appreciate you guys tuning in. There's a whole bunch more shit that's happened in the last 24, 48 hours, but I can't possibly touch it all or I'd bore you to death. We'd be here for probably 3 hours talking about it all. I encourage you, go pay attention, but don't obsess about it. What you need to obsess about, in my opinion, is making sure you have, 6 months food, water, extra clothing, plenty of ammo, lots of ammo. More ammo than you would ever need in a lifetime. Get that much. Then you'll know that you've got enough to potentially protect yourself and your family from either civil war, World War III, economic collapse, power grid failure. Maybe it's a natural disaster. Maybe, some big space rock comes down and knocks a big hole in Texas or something like that. And, sends a bunch of ash up in the air, and we have the year without summer. Wasn't that what it was? Way back in the day, a big volcano went off and it put so much ash and stuff up in the air that it actually changed the earth and the temperature on the earth. So, I mean, what's going to happen if we have a year without summer? Well, the crops are going to fail. So whatever you have in your stores is what's going to make you survive or help you survive. So I highly encourage that. Double up on your prepping. That's what you need to be worried about. All this other stuff, a lot of it is theater. I'm not going to lie. A lot of it is theater. It's made to distract you from whatever the more serious issue is. And they're quite successful with their propaganda stream. So guys, watch out for the propaganda. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.